Babe, I know you just got into a car accident and that you probably don't have much longer to live, but Tigger's laying on my lap right now. I can't just get up. Hello? Oh, hey there. I'm thinking about going backpacking through the Grand Canyon, and with any backcountry endeavor, I like to educate myself before I head out in order to be prepared and stay safe. And where do I find the best info? YouTube, of course. But do I even want to go to the Grand Canyon? Let's take a look at some of the reviews.
The next review is from Jake. My wife told me our baby boy wasn't mine right as when we got there. Well, sorry to hear that, Jake. Good thing she took you to the Grand Canyon, though. It's not like there's any place there where you could leap to your death after you get bad news.
Okay, great. Well, now that I've been convinced to go, let's take a look at some of the safety tips involved in exploring the backcountry.
What are you guys doing?
Oh. So pretty.
Wow, that was really eye-opening. I already feel so much safer. What else we got?
Hey guys, we just saw an elk right here in Grand Canyon National Park.
No. What are you doing?
We're just gonna film it for a couple of
God, what are you doing?
minutes here. Alright, this is a pretty medium-sized. It's like a medium-sized cow, I guess. Can't really see its head. It's behind a tree right now.
Yeah.
There it goes. Oh, it's like grooming itself.
Alright guys, you gotta keep it moving.
Alright. Sorry, bro.
I'll make sure to stay away from that ranger when I'm there.
Oh my God. Okay. Oh my God, this is... Just leave it. Just leave it. Walk. Just walk. Just get away from it. No, just leave it for now.
Yeah, this guy's not having it. Yeah, yep, get him going.
Keep the bag.
This is genius.
You getting this? Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh.
These elk are getting people into all kinds of trouble. Surely there is some other wildlife that I'll be able to see out there.
We begin tonight with a story that started right here in Arizona, only to spark anger around the world.
We want to warn you this video, which emerged on YouTube over the weekend, is tough to watch. Look familiar? Park officials say this appears to be the edge of the Grand Canyon. Here you see a man wearing one shoe. In front of that one shoe, an unsuspecting squirrel. The man brings his leg back, and that is where we stop.
Sadly, you can probably guess what happened next.
We now pick up this video from that heart-stopping freeze frame and take you to the moment when foot meets squirrel, sending a confused, defenseless animal flying into a 6,000-foot hole.
Hey, what, did he kick him?
Local nature lovers are stunned.
Why?
Seriously?
Oh my God, that's terrible.
What's wrong with people?
I bet that squirrel had it coming. I'm surprised nobody's ever fallen into the Grand Canyon themselves.
Officials are investigating after a 33-year-old man fell to his death this week while touring the Grand Canyon, walking across the viewing platform. Here's what we know. The Mojave County Sheriff's Office search and rescue team responded to the Grand Canyon West Skywalk. This was around 9 o'clock Monday morning after receiving multiple reports that the unidentified 33-year-old man fell over 4,000 feet plummeting off the walkway. That allows tourists to look down to the bottom of the canyon. Officials launched a rescue effort immediately. That included a helicopter and 2 short-haul technicians. Man was determined to be deceased. He was taken to the Hualapai Nation. Unclear yet if the man's death was an accident or if he committed suicide. We will keep you guys posted.
Yikes. Never mind. I'm pretty sure these national parks have a great search and rescue team, though. Okay, come on. It can't be that scary to visit the Grand Canyon.
I can't watch this.
Can you look that way, and I'll tell you about it.
Yeah, why aren't you video?
What? I really,
like they're discussing
I really ought to be.
Oh, now why do you throw that? Oh, take a picture of me before I die.
What's going on in your
pocket, dude. Like,
no,
It's a camera.
is that it? Is that it?
You just live out there. Okay, oh, now what's he going to do? Sit there and stand without being tethered. Okay, this is now a couple people being tethered. This is why you plan your, what is it in scuba diving? Plan your dive and dive your plan.
That's it.
Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, hell.
Okay, maybe I don't want to visit the Grand Canyon. Wait, what's this?
A lot of places you hear about in life, and you get there and you're a little bit disappointed because they've been overhyped. The Grand Canyon's not one of them. It still takes your breath away.
Debbie Piercy is leading a Tennessee travel group to the West Coast. The out-of-this-world red rocks, miles of the Colorado River, and thousands of years of history. It's no surprise the Grand Canyon was a must-see on their cross-country trip. Besides its beauty, the Grand Canyon is a major economic driver for the area. At its peak before the pandemic, the National Park Service reported visitors supporting nearly 13,000 jobs and an economic impact of $1.2 billion. But groups like Piercy's are not showing up like they used to.
I didn't realize the numbers had gone down. So it's very surprising to me, and I hope that turns around real quick.
Joelle Baird with the Grand Canyon says there has been some bounce back, but not enough.
Well, in 2022, we welcomed 4.7 million visitors, which was amazing, but still not quite to that pre-pandemic level.
Baird says they're seeing fewer international travelers, but Arizona's extreme weather may also play a role. As for Piercy, who's traveled thousands of miles to see the canyon, she says now is the time to visit.
If the numbers are down right now, get here fast, because it won't stay this way long.
Park officials say with those lower visitation numbers, now is the perfect time to visit the beautiful canyon.
Tigger, I gotta leave now.
Hey, I want to go to the Grand Canyon.
What? What would you even do at the Grand Canyon?
I don't know. I hear they have condors there. I bet I could hunt one of those down.
You want to hunt down a condor? You know those things have like a 9-foot wingspan, right?
Are you calling me weak or something?
No, I'm not. Oh, forget it. I'll see you in a week.
Whatever, man.
Oh
didn't even realize that was a bridge. You can like just barely see the slit in between. Pretty neat.
Thing running. All right, now let's figure out how arches got all of those arches. So like with most other unique geological phenomena, you need a certain combination of ingredients. In this case, our first ingredient is salt? Probably not what you were expecting, but let me explain. About 300 million years ago, this area of what would become Utah was subject to nearly 30 different cycles of ocean advancing and retreating. And each time the ocean advanced and retreated, salt water became concentrated in what was known as the Paradox Basin. And because it was a basin, water had no outlet to leave. It eventually just evaporated away. Because it was salty ocean water, when the water evaporated away, it left behind a massive deposit of salt. 5,000 feet worth of it, enough to fill a YouTube comment section for sure. Then you fast forward a few million more years and you've got some mountain building activity in this area. And with mountains comes erosion, because as rain falls on those mountains, carries sediment away, and that sediment has to be deposited somewhere. This is known as deposition. So deposition occurred in the Paradox Basin on top of all that salt that was deposited millions of years earlier. Eventually, that sediment is going to solidify to form rocks, sedimentary rocks. So now you've got rocks on top of salt, two ingredients. Now, here's the thing with salt. When you've collected enough of it in one location, like what happened in the Paradox Basin millions of years ago, it doesn't really behave like you'd expect when subjected to immense geological forces, like piling a few million years worth of rocks on top of it. When that happens, the pressures and forces acting on the salt actually cause it to flow. It's a solid, yes, but it has these properties that cause it to act all weird, and over insanely long geologic timescales, yeah, it flows. Think of like a glacier, same relative concept. Anyway, so yeah, the salt is flowing underground, and then it runs into these deep-lying faults within the Earth's crust. Can't go through the faults, so instead this mass of salt is just pushed upward, causing a salt dome. Now, as the salt moves upward, again, it has this flow property, but the rock above it does not have this flow property. Rocks don't flow, they break, and that's exactly what happened. As the salt pushed upward, it caused the rock above it to break and fracture in these parallel vertical fissures. So now we've got this salt dome with these vertically fissured rocks above it. Eventually, the rock on top of those rocks, this is a lot of rocks I know, but those rocks, the top layers, are going to erode until eventually the rock layer with the vertical fissures is exposed to the surface. You can imagine what happens next. Water infiltrates those vertical fissures all the way down to the big old pile of salt below. And because salt dissolves in water, the big old pile of salt begins to disappear. But now it's no longer holding up those vertically fissured rocks above it, and everything just begins to collapse. And this is how we ended up with what is today known as Salt Valley. When you're driving on the main road through Arches National Park, you're driving through Salt Valley. And it's on the edges of Salt Valley where we see most of the arches in the park. You can see this really well on Google Earth, actually. The reason you'll find most of the arches on the edge of this valley is because that's actually where you'll find the remnants of those vertically fissured rocks. Down in the middle of the valley, that's kind of where everything collapsed, so you don't really see anything down there. But yeah, out on the edges, the last vestiges of those vertical fissures can still be seen. Today, you'll notice them as these massive, deeply red-colored fins. What happened was those fissures, again, being exposed to the surface, allowed slightly acidic rainwater to infiltrate into the rock, which widened the fissures and the cracks and ultimately created the fins. And the type of rock here is important too. That's an ingredient we haven't really talked about yet. Most of the arches in the park are found in a rock layer known as the Entrada sandstone, which has these nice spherical granules of sand and which is very porous. It has a lot of tiny holes in it. Lots of pores make it really easy for water to infiltrate the rock and erode it and continue opening up those cracks and fissures. Now, let's finish this thing off by finally forming some actual arches, because there's another type of rock that's important here as well. Below the Entrada sandstone, where all the arches form because the rock is really porous and erodible, lies a rock layer known as the Carmel Formation. It has some sand in it too, but it also has clay. Clay grains are much smaller than sand grains and thus do not allow as much water to infiltrate into the rock and erode it away. As a result, water ends up just kind of pooling on top of the Carmel Formation, where it can further eat away at and erode the Entrada sandstone above it. You can start to see how these arches come together now. The water sits and pools, infiltrates the pores of the Entrada sandstone, begins to form a little opening, exposing more rock to erosion. The opening becomes wider, rinse and repeat until you get a window, a tiny little window in the rock that will eventually become an arch.
The ants go marching 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching 2 by 2. The little one stops to take a poo, and they all go marching down. Whew.
Aubrey! Aubrey, come here. No, Ethan, stand up. Ethan.
just the water?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you a minute to decide. Or do you know what you want?
I know what I want.
What are we doing?
Swedish pancakes with lingonberries.
Perfect. I will get that started.
Alright, so I found a place with Swedish pancakes with lingonberries, which is fairly uncommon. And I go in there and order it. You know, I brought breakfast, but I'm like, you know what? I saw the sign last night as I was walking around. I'm like, you know what? I should just go in and try it. I really like that. I go in and they give me this. I'll put a picture. It's literally just buttermilk pancakes that are kind of flattened out and slightly wider than they are. Here's a picture of what they should look like from Ann Sather's in Chicago. They weren't that bad, but it was $15 for some regular buttermilk pancakes.
From everything they're telling me, it's something wonderful to see. It's called the Grand Canyon 'cause no bigger canyon ever was. It's very, very, very old, a gazillion years I'm told. The canyon's long and deep inside, it's 4 to 18 miles wide. Rocks to climb and paths to hike, even mule rides if I like. A giant hole deep in the ground, I wanna go and look around. From everything they're telling me, it's something wonderful to see. They say a river's rushing through, and something fun that I could do is take a river rafting ride. Down the rapids, slip and slide. They saw caves carved in the walls where Indians lived, and that's not all. Wildlife is everywhere. Wow, I'm gonna like it there. A giant hole deep in the ground.
I cannot believe how busy this place is on a Monday. And supposedly their numbers are down. What the hell was this place like before the pandemic? Jesus. What the fuck? This is insane. This is all right next to each other. Just made myself some dinner. Can of soup with some instant rice of some kind. It's chilly up here. We're at about 7,000 feet, I think. I don't know the exact temperature, but it's cold. I got my gloves and my big ass coat on. I made a fire over here. Tomorrow I start backpacking. I'm actually pretty nervous, quite honestly. Looking at the canyon today, you really don't realize just how gigantic it is until you stand up right next to it like that. I was like, I couldn't believe that it was a real thing. It just looks insane. To think that I'm going to be going down and up and down and up. Oh my god. There's supposedly about 6 inches of snow up at the north rim once you get towards the top there. But other than that, it should be dry and supposedly not supposed to rain or snow at all the 3 days that I'm out there. But we'll see how it goes.
Although Hell's Canyon in Idaho is almost half a mile deeper, and Australia's Capertee Valley is nearly a mile wider, the Grand Canyon remains the most famous of them all. And it also holds one of geology's greatest mysteries. Just how did the Colorado River, only a tenth the size of the Mississippi, form such a large canyon? The answer has eluded scientists for more than a century, because many of the clues they normally rely on have been swept away by the river's water over millions of years, or buried by landslides, or destroyed by volcanoes.
It seems like we should understand perfectly how the Grand Canyon formed. The problem is we've lost a tremendous amount of evidence. It's like a murder mystery where most of the evidence is lost. And so the best we can do is piece together the evidence that we have.
Even so, slowly but surely, this geological icon is giving up its most ancient secrets. The canyon's richly colored layers offer scientists one of the most complete geological records on Earth.
The first concept you have to get your mind around as you're thinking about the Grand Canyon is that the stories told by the rocks are exceedingly old, millions and billions of years.
Well, we're deep in the Grand Canyon, right by the Colorado River. You can see these spectacular black rocks. Actually, John Wesley Powell called them ugly black rocks because for him, these hard rocks made bad rapids, and that was harder on his trip. But for those of us who are interested in the early history of Grand Canyon, these rocks are the bonanza. These rocks are about 1.7 billion years old. It's less than half of the age of the Earth. So we have a great story here in the Grand Canyon of the last almost 2 billion years of Earth history.
By analyzing the chemical structure of the garnet, in particular its calcium content, investigators can determine how much weight of rock was crushing down upon it at the moment it was made.
In simple terms, if you analyze the garnet and you see higher calcium content of the garnet, it means you're deeper into a mountain belt, more rocks above you.
So, nearly 2 billion years ago, before the canyon evolved, ancient mountains 6 miles above sea level stood here, towering peaks as high as the modern Himalayas. Over the next 500 million years, these mountains were worn away by the relentless forces of erosion. Over millennia, the freezing and thawing of ice cracked open the rock of the mountain slopes. Wind and water carried the rock debris down towards the oceans, leaving behind a flat and featureless plain with no sign at all of a canyon.
To the bottom. The Colorado River. Very brown. Very gross. There's water coming up out of the trail. Made it to the first campsite. I was dying when I first got here because there's no shade. Like, there's this tree with no leaves on it that I was laying under. But I was just baking in the sun. The little shade that I had. And there's so many gnats out here. I did not expect there to be bugs of any kind out in the desert.
Spent 5 years nailing myself to a cross that I destroyed overnight through what we'll call it talk in a parking lot in a town that would later on become where I'd lay my head with you. I'd say your eyes up from the dead here again and again. Say you do too. Say you do too. Say I'm like you. Oh, I like you, and then sometime more we'll be home somewhere else with our dog and our children. Shit, I'm in no rush. We have all our lives. We can just get high and watch time pass by. Then again, there's nothing we can do. And I think I'd be fine living life wanting to die with you.
Ocean at the time that they're being deposited.
Shells like these come from shallow tropical waters, an inland sea that first arrived here 500 million years ago and covered the flat, low-lying plain. But that did not happen just once. Many different layers in the walls of the Grand Canyon tell Karlstrom that over hundreds of millions of years, this land has been submerged by the sea, not just once, but at least 8 times.
It's surprising to go up a mile above sea level and you find a clamshell or what looks like a clamshell. And you say, that's what I see when I go down to the ocean. So why is it here a mile above sea level?
It's clear that this region underwent a type of geological disturbance that pushed up the entire seabed. Geologists discovered in the 1960s that collisions between separate plates of the Earth's crust could force land up into the air. It happens all over the globe and usually deforms the land into tilted mountain ranges. But this Arizona uplift was unique.
After all the flat layers are deposited at sea level, there was a major uplift event called the Laramide orogeny, which lifted these rocks without tilting them, still flat, lifted them up to high elevation.
Because the land rose straight up, like being in an elevator, it formed a high, smooth plateau. The sea that had been there drained back toward the northeast. But as of yet, there was no Grand Canyon. Until a few decades ago, some investigators thought this ancient riverbed, called Hindu Canyon, provided the answer. They believed that Hindu Canyon's creation, 50 million years ago, marked the arrival of the Colorado River and the beginnings of the Grand Canyon. But in 1969, The discovery of these pebbles turned everything that geologists thought they knew about the canyon on its head.
It turns out that to explain how the Grand Canyon got there is very much more complex than people thought. So the early geologists thought it was simple, but now we realize there's a lot more to the story, and it's kind of a detective story. You start out with a few clues, and you put the clues together, and then finally you get the satisfaction of saying, well, you know, I figured this out before anybody else did.
Figuring it out before anyone else was just what Young did in 1969, when he was a 24-year-old geology graduate student at Washington University. His professors sent him to investigate Hindu Canyon. But when Young arrived at the dusty riverbed, he discovered that it had nothing to do with the Colorado or the Grand Canyon itself. His discovery flew in the face of all the established geological theories and revolutionized thinking about the canyon's history. The evidence Young had uncovered was the alignment of pebbles in the bed of the river.
If you look at these pebbles, you can see that the pebbles are flowing, or the pebbles are oriented in this direction, which is a stable direction for water flowing to my right. If the pebbles had been oriented this way, the water would have flipped them over. So when we find pebbles that are oriented this way, that tells us that the water was flowing to my right.
It is a crucial clue. The Colorado River could never have flowed to Young's right. It has always run in the opposite direction, towards the Pacific Ocean. This is Muddy Creek, near Lake Mead, Arizona, just a few miles downstream from where the Colorado River exits the Grand Canyon today. The underlying rocks prove that this was once the site of a vast freshwater lake.
The upper part of the Muddy Creek Formation is this nice limestone which formed in a freshwater lake. The water would have been very clean. There would have been lots of plants and animals living in the water, and as they sank to the bottom, the calcium carbonate in their shells would form this limestone, which is typically what forms a limestone rock.
The limestone is the calcified remains of the creatures that once lived in this lake. Then, 5.5 million years ago, the animals all disappeared. There were no shells to make fresh limestone. The only explanation is that the animals died 5.5 million years ago because that was the date when the Colorado River arrived here. The river would have been carrying masses of dirt and rock sediment from the fledgling Grand Canyon.
The water would have been too muddy and dirty, and limestone does not form in dirty, silty, muddy water. It's just incompatible. The animals and plants that live in such a lake can't exist if there's a lot of silt and mud in the water.
So, the muddy death of the lake gave geologists a confirmed date for when the Colorado arrived in Arizona and commenced its excavations. The Grand Canyon was born a mere 5.5 million years ago.
Faded from it. If I could go back and tell you how it ends, I would have done it. Don't let down. Don't let down. Friends and family took the alley to Miami. Got caught up in all my babies. Got no daddy, can you send me something? I can't do all of the shouting on an empty stomach. I can't find myself, no balance in this emptiness. By long way down, she meant the whole. I dug myself, I can't keep control of myself. Sometimes I just don't know my fuck that shit. My bitch, she bad, dog. It's all in my head. Mama told me.
I took my GPS watch off to put on some sunscreen earlier. I was taking a break and I left it on the ground. Didn't notice until about a mile further up the trail. So I just ran down a mile and hiked back up another mile, in addition to all the mileage I'm going to be doing today. So that's fun.
Say, let's get this switch up fast. I switch this. Went out the gears and started me. Watch my brother now while you can. Hey, shut up, the boys ain't coming outside when I'm outside doing my dance. And I might jug and jug and jug and
Flipping through the photo album, you remember all the good old days. K-Swiss and Polo down, and mama had to put a down payment by.
Well, this is it. I'm at the top of the north rim of the Grand Canyon on the North Kaibab Trail. This is the view out into the canyon. Pretty spectacular. You can really see the whole Grand Canyon. Amazing. It's crazy how much snow there is up here in the north rim. Just standing on a giant pile of snow. It's just hard packed down. I don't know if I'll be able to hike all the way up to the south rim tomorrow. What I did today is similar to what I'll do tomorrow, but I was able to leave most of my gear at my campsite. Tomorrow I'll have a full heavy pack on. If only there was someone that could give me the motivation that I need.
Chris.
Tigger, is that you?
Yes, it's me.
Did you see the compilation I made of you?
Yeah, that was pretty cringe, bro.
What do you mean you thought it was cringe? I thought it was heartwarming.
Nah, it was just pure cringe, bro.
Oh, whatever. Why are you here?
I heard you needed some motivation for your hike tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to make it up tomorrow.
If there's anyone that can do that hike, it's you. Mostly because if you don't make it, I'm probably going to die without someone to take care of me.
Well, stop it. I'm not going to let you die.
Okay, fine. I'm just giving you a hard time. You don't know this, but I've been stealing your phone while you've been sleeping to check on Strava, and I've seen the splits on your runs recently. You're pretty fast, bro. You don't give yourself enough credit. You're stronger than you think.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Trust in me, Chris. You can make it up to the south rim tomorrow.
Okay, I trust you, Tigger.
But John Douglas has his own theory, one that has gained respect among many leading geologists since he first published his ideas in 2000. What Douglas calls his spillover theory seems to work well on paper.
Spillover is incredibly easy. All it means is the Colorado River poured into a basin. When it poured into that basin, it had to form a lake. And this lake was huge. All that lake had to do was rise and then spill across the plateau. It poured down, cutting rapidly, and over time you would have ended up with the beginnings of Grand Canyon very quickly.
Douglas sets out in search of a lake, large enough and old enough to be the source of his spillover flood. He has a prime suspect in mind. This is the site of the ancient Lake Bitahoche, 100 miles to the east of the Grand Canyon. And a clue here on the old lake bed reveals how deep this lake once was.
These green clays, which indicate deep lake water, this is the classic evidence for the giant lake necessary for the overflow explanation of Grand Canyon.
These green deposits are only created in one specific environment.
To have green lake clays, you need deeper water where there is little oxidation. I think that's indication that the Colorado River has arrived in this basin, that it's made its way from the Rocky Mountains to this location. And this is its basically stopover point before it eventually spills across to form the Grand Canyon.
Establishing the depth at this point lets Douglas work out how large an area was once covered by water. He compares the depth of the water with the contour height lines of the surrounding countryside. And that shows that Lake Bitahoche once spread over 20,000 square miles and contained more than 3,000 cubic miles of water. That makes it bigger than Lake Michigan. Douglas needs to date the age of this lake. For his spillover theory to work, it has to be older than the Grand Canyon, more than 5.5 million years. He unearths the proof he needs in these deep water fossils.
Okay, these fossil shells are freshwater mollusks, maybe as young as 6 million years old.
The dates match up. The lake was here at the right time to have spilled over and begun cutting the Grand Canyon. Gravity and simple physics are at the heart of how the Colorado has carved so much rock so quickly. 5.5 million years ago, the Colorado River was flowing over the steep edge of the plateau that had been pushed up thousands of feet above sea level. The river ran rapidly over the steep downward slope and swept rough, rocky debris along in its wake. An incision formed, digging back into the edge of the plateau.
The power of the river to incise as it dropped off that huge escarpment must have been really great. And so the river quickly incised there, and that very steep drop-off of incision would have worked its way back upstream through the Grand Canyon region. It's sort of a waterfall that a few million years later has spread itself out through the length of the river.
It is this steep drop-off between the Colorado Plateau and the land beneath it that fuels the Colorado's incredible erosive power. The river begins its life high in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. For every mile that it travels, the river falls 10 feet. By contrast, the Mississippi River, a river moving 10 times as much water as the Colorado, meanders across a flat landscape. With no steep slope to drive it, the Mississippi can't carve any canyon.
Grand Canyon, oftentimes we just associate it with the Colorado River. The Colorado River is what cut the Grand Canyon. It formed the initial gash to allow the river to flow across. But what makes Grand Canyon grand is really its width and all the layers of rock that are exposed. And that isn't only solely tied to the Colorado River. What's happening is this rock that's exposed, it's being beaten on by rain, and the rain gets in there and it weathers the rock and it weakens it. And then because this is so incredibly steep, gravity will act on that material, transporting it deeper down into the river, flushing it back out. And that process just repeats over and over again to allow the canyon to get wider over time. We have classic rock falls that are cascading down onto the black rock in the far distance. Those events are indications that this is actively ongoing canyon widening and retreating from these processes.
The rocks fall because both harder and softer rocks are layered, one on top of the other, in the canyon walls. The harder layers are made of limestone and sandstone. These rocks don't weather easily. But the softer shale beneath is made of mud that expands when it rains, causing the shale to crumble away.
Those weaker rocks, they weather and retreat back and they undermine the resistant cliff rocks above that will then fail as dramatic rockfall landslide events, allowing the canyon to increase its width.
The rock falls are merely the first step towards increasing the Grand Canyon's enormous width. Without the help of an accomplice, the entire canyon would fill up with debris.
Without the Colorado River, you could not have the Grand Canyon as wide as it is. By flushing that material downstream, it wipes it all clean to allow a whole new material to build up again. And once you repeat that over and over again, it allows the canyon walls to retreat back. And the entire canyon just grows. These guys continue to march and push and move all that material downstream.
Geologists have been studying the canyon since the mid-1800s. Yet even after more than a century of investigation, the story is still far from finished.
The landscape is evolving and it's going to be changing through the geological future. And so the story about the geology and the fascinating questions here is not one that's over, and it's going to continue to evolve as scientists continue to do work here.
So I just did a quick 9-mile warm-up. Kind of a joke, but it was actually a gentle downslope pretty much the whole way out here. I've been walking for about 2.5 hours now, and I'm about to begin my ascent to the top of the South Rim. I'm estimating it'll be probably an additional 6 hours, but it's only like 9 a.m., so I got plenty of daylight. I'm about halfway up. Got about 3 more miles to go. Did it. I made it to the South Rim. Well, headed back to Moab now. I'm just taking today off. Tomorrow I visit Canyonlands, and then I drive back home. And also, I thought it would take me 6 hours to get up to the South Rim. It only took me, I think, less than 4 hours, or a little over 4 hours. So, got up there a lot faster than I thought. It also was not as bad as I thought it would be. I couldn't believe it when I got to the top. I was like, wow, it's only like 1:30 in the afternoon.
Well, I'm a low-down truck driver, 18 wheels and a needy rider. Lord have mercy on a weary soul. Yeah, I'm burning down this highway, and I'm pulling on a heavy load. You know them high winds, high grades, I'm pulling freight, and I'm getting paid. Lord, them chicken coops ain't open, and I'm high gear, hammer down, and hammer lane. I'm blow right past them smokies, I got friends on the inside pulling string. I've been to Detroit, LA, New York, Mississippi, Grand Canyon, Hoover Dam, East Texas, and Vietnam. Lord have mercy on a weary soul. Yeah, I'm burning down this highway, I'm pulling on a heavy load. Get some!
lights are home.
So I just got here to Canyonlands, to the campground. They've got one campground in this section of the national park that I'm visiting. It's got 12 sites, first come, first serve. It's about 3 p.m. on a Friday, and it's a long drive out here, just to get out to this campground, and there's no other camping anywhere near this area. So I thought for sure I was wasting my time driving out here and wouldn't find a site. I come out here, like half of these sites are empty. There's nobody out here. It's crazy. So luckily I got a site, right here. It is incredibly windy though. I mean, there's like basically a dust storm happening over here. Oh, it just calmed down right as I turned the phone around, but I feel like my tent might get, gonna have to use like 20 stakes to keep it down. Setting it up, I don't even know how that's gonna work. It's just gonna blow away as I'm trying to set it up. But we're here at Canyonlands. I feel like the second I step away, it's just gonna fly right out of the ground. It's still up.
Hi folks, I'm Karen Hanker at Canyonlands National Park. One of the first comments most visitors make when arriving at the park is about the Jews.
I hope you get ass cancer and die, you son of a bitch. I'll cut your throat. I'll come to your house and kill your children.
Yeah, I think, but, I think
is about the views. Everywhere you look, canyons, spires, mesas, and buttes combine to make truly amazing landscapes of sedimentary rock. Kind of makes you wonder, how did it all form? The answer's pretty simple: deposition and erosion. Let's talk about deposition first. Over hundreds of millions of years, this area has undergone some dramatic changes. As the North American continent slowly drifted away from the equator, what is now Canyonlands was flooded by oceans, crisscrossed by rivers, covered in mud, and buried by sand. The climate here has resembled a tropical coastline, a sand dune desert, and just about everything in between. And in each of those environments, sediments deposited by wind and water piled up on the surface and buried whatever lay below. Dissolved minerals like calcium carbonate then cemented these buried sediments together, turning them into layers of rock. Each of these layers contains clues, like patterns or fossils, which tell of its depositional environment. For example, the ripple marks on Moenkopi mudstone tell us it was deposited by waves. Or the alternating red and white layers of the Cedar Mesa sandstone tell a story of white coastal beach sands periodically covered by iron-rich debris eroded from nearby mountains. It's hard to imagine such major changes and the vast time scale they spanned. But what's even more surprising is how quickly the layers of rock have eroded away to reveal the remarkable landscapes we see today. Just about 15 million years ago, which is last week in geologic terms, most of this area was at sea level. But then movements in the Earth's crust caused the whole region to gradually rise. Now the average elevation is a mile above sea level. Pretty dramatic change. Now, the uplifting of this area, which is called the Colorado Plateau, marks the switch to Chapter 2 of our geologic story, from deposition to weathering and erosion, which occur almost continuously here in a variety of forms, some dramatic and some pretty subtle. The Colorado and Green Rivers are the obvious agents of erosion, having carved out canyons over 2,000 feet deep. But when rain falls, water also flows down a network of washes, pour-offs, and tributary canyons that erode tons of sediment into these rivers, which gives them their distinctive colors. The expansion of water when it freezes is also a powerful weathering force. If you've ever put a can of soda in the freezer and forgotten about it, you know what I'm talking about. Ice crystals form between the sand grains of a rock and gently weather its surface or widen its cracks, making everything more vulnerable to the next big storm. Some rocks are just more resistant than others and erode at different rates. A hardy caprock of white-rimmed sandstone may protect the weaker layer of shale beneath until only a thin spire remains. You can see these standing rocks in Monument Basin at Island in the Sky or in the Maze District. Erosion continues to shape Canyonlands today, and most of the time no one notices. But every once in a while, a major rockfall or landslide will remind us that these landscapes are ever-changing, and that despite its reputation, geology is some pretty exciting stuff.
Stop. We're Modern Baseball. This song is called Play Ball, and it's off our first full-length, Sports. Oh, these words were thrown together when I still had my faith in hand. Kept it in my back pocket with the change I had to spare. Swim through the skies when it's night, let the stars be my sea breeze. I love when the record echoes, reminds me of the trees. But I shouldn't have to say this to you. No, you know how to live life. This compilation of sings and tunes means everything to me now. Oh, I cut me open, but you did all the pouring out. I discovered more and more this world that I can call mine. No, I don't care what it takes, blood, sweat, or all my time, because I should not say this to you. No, you know how to live life, and I should not sing all these tunes. No, you make me feel alive. I'm the one to point fingers, but you got me in a